In 1959, Thomas Dam, a Danish woodcutter, created a figure that would come to haunt truck stop claw machines for decades, the troll doll. Although popular in their native Europe, troll dolls saw massive success in the United States, starting in the 60s and continuing through the 90s. Even as someone who wasn't born until 99, I remember my mom talking all the time about the troll doll collection she amassed before I was born. These little dudes were everywhere, but there was a lull in the early 2000s when the Dam Company renewed their copyright in the United States and put an end to the proliferation of knockoff dolls that fed into the constant stream of trolls. Despite this, Trollz eventually went on to inspire a massive musical franchise in the 2010s that's still releasing installments as of the time this video is being released. The Trollz were even a part of my childhood, despite the fact I grew up in between the largest peaks of the brand's popularity, because in 2005, they would make a desperate plea to little girls. Trollz, with a Z, was produced by Deke Entertainment and aired on the Deke Kids Network block, which aired on some Fox WB, now known as the CW, and UPN affiliates on Saturday mornings. Trollz is a relic of the early 2000s with its bright colors, vapid characters, and poppy soundtrack, and also, by all metrics, a financial failure. Now, if you're like me and were about the perfect age to enjoy Trollz in 2005, you may have memories of it. Or maybe you even had one of the dolls, like I did. Perhaps you might even be familiar with the website, but that was 2005, and I can't help but wonder, was Trollz good? Or was it just a hair thing?
Grab your cell phone, get your laptop, going out to have fun and shop, hang with good friends, surf for new ones, generation, why not have fun? It's a hair thing, it's a pink thing, it's a attractive fantasy. It's a hair thing, it's a big thing, music, fashion, magic, make us happy. Welcome to the Trollz world.
After a shockingly long opening sequence and a random man telling us what's going to happen in the show, we meet Amethyst, the pink one, who's going to meet her friends at the mall after coming home from spending her summer break out of town. When she arrives, her friends don't notice her. In fact, it's even like they see right through her. Amethyst wakes up screaming and her mom comes in to console her, explaining that friendships change, and if Amethyst changed over the summer, her friends would still like her. Relieved, Amethyst goes to the mall for real and meets her friends, who we will refer to cumulatively as the BFFLs, or Best Friends for Life. Ruby, the red one, and the de facto leader, Onyx, the goth one, Topaz, the blonde and therefore dumb one, and Sapphire, the blue one with glasses. So you know she's smart. They greet Amethyst, then immediately start batting their eyes at boys for a few minutes until Amethyst decides to share her big news. Her gem got its glow, which is like a period or something for girls in this universe. Oh, and it also means that Amethyst can now use magic with the help of some spell beads, because this is a capitalist society, so the magic that is, inherent to you can only be done with the purchase of a product. Ruby casts a spell to help fix a total Uggo's hair and accidentally turns her into a butterfly. She offers Amethyst a bead, and because Amethyst is the pink one, she is instantly good at magic and makes the woman beautiful. And also makes Ruby insanely jealous to the point that she runs away and Topaz and Sapphire have to run after her. Onyx stays and reveals that Amethyst is the youngest, and Ruby just isn't used to Amethyst standing up for herself. They walk around and run into two boys. One is a blue jock, and the other is a red alt dude with a weird voice. The jock is also dumb, and Amethyst has to explain who she is. And of course, Ruby sees this and gets even more jealous because she has a crush on that guy, and he's her boyfriend. He just doesn't know it yet. Ruby kicks Amethyst out of the friend group, proving that she was right to be scared of her friends leaving her for changing. At home, Amethyst checks her social media, and we get a montage of Ruby being the worst friend ever. Meanwhile, Ruby and Topaz are getting their hair done, and Ruby starts to regret kicking Amethyst out, but is too proud to admit it. Sapphire, Onyx, and Topaz trick Ruby into thinking she's going into a party, so she can run into and hopefully apologize to Amethyst. When Ruby and Amethyst show up, they turn Topaz into an ogre to attack them because nothing brings people back together like a near-death experience. Ruby apologizes, more or less, and everyone learns the value and importance of friendship. Episode 2, 5 Spells Trouble. They lore dump in this one. So Amethyst has a crush on a boy named Cole. Get it? Like, you know, the thing people get black lung from? But he's a clumsy loser, and her friends make fun of her for it. And then they literally appear in her room to announce that they've pooled their money together so they can take her on a spell bead shopping spree. Yay, capitalism! They go to a cute little boutique spell shop in the mall, and we find out that the prettiest spells are the most disgusting. Just like Ruby, according to one of the characters. The eccentric shop owner fits Amethyst for a bracelet of perfectly curated spells. After their little shopping spree, the girls goad Amethyst into doing her first spell, even though her grandma told her spells are a big responsibility. Eventually, they agree that they'll all do a spell together to make Cole cool. And it works way too well because they turn Cole into an ice sculpture and also cause an earthquake. They disguise Cole as a mannequin and run back to the spell shop, but the owner isn't there. Instead, it's just a magical glowing door. They walk right through it because teenagers have absolutely no fear, and then they meet an elderly troll named Obsidian who tells them that they used the power of 5 and then drops them off in the ruins of the ancient troll civilization and just disappears. The girls remove their gems and place them into an altar that has perfectly carved out chunks for each of their gems, each of them except for Amethyst, who fumbles when another earthquake happens and has to be rescued when she falls into a straight-up void opening in the earth. With the power of friendship and some insane body strength, they pull Amethyst from the void, and the girls really pull it together. Amethyst places her gem in the center, and once it's placed, they open their eyes and are back in the mall with their gems set back into their belly buttons. They rush to check on Cole and immediately bat their eyes and swoon, because saving the world isn't nearly as awesome as a cute boy. He sheepishly greets only Amethyst, and they all go out for smoothies. Also, a good time to mention, because I am not going to cover these, they do a segment at the end of every episode where the girls test spells on a guy named Kaboom, who we can only assume is being held hostage and tortured because we never see him outside of this segment or outside of this, bulletproof cage. Episode 3, First Day of School. 2 construction workers stand over a massive void in the ground and say that it must have been caused by yesterday's earthquake, meaning that the series has taken place over only 3 days so far. We also follow that up with the confirmation that all these girls must be loaded because their homes are huge on big swatches of lands, and these teenage girls seem to have their own wings of the houses. The only exception is Onyx, because we don't get an exterior shot of her house in this episode. After seeing every girl wake up, we finally land on Amethyst, who is frantically searching for a lost ankle bracelet. She even calls her mom in to help her look for it, only to find out that it's been on her ankle the whole time. Amethyst then tries to freak out about a binder that is on her desk, causing her mom to guess that she's just nervous for the first day of school. She gives Amethyst her grandma's special necklace to give her a confidence boost for the day. The BFFLs are late for their first day and run into a group of cheerleaders / mean girls who give them late passes after some mild bullying. The BFFLs are too proud to ask for help and end up casting a spell to bring help, which releases a cute little guy with an annoying voice named Snarf, who is generally unhelpful. The principal catches them in the hall during class, and they find out that their late passes are counterfeit, and they also give him an allergic reaction because Topaz stuffed Snarf into her backpack, and the principal is allergic to goldenrod and dark creatures. He sends them to class with a warning, and the girls rush to seemingly their only class, where they gush about how cute their new teacher is. Ew. Snarf is outside making a big scene on the other side of the window for the whole class, because he really is annoying. During lunch, the mean girls try and start a fist fight with the BFFLs for snitching on them, even though at absolutely no point did these girls say anything. But they're cheerleaders, so we know they're mean. Snarf butts into this and turns into a horrible giant monster and begins to terrorize the school because the BFFLs won't help him find his master. Their fight with Snarf leads into the gym where the girls, who are literally at the peak of physical performance, attack him using cool swinging attacks from the ropes. But they still aren't strong enough, until Obsidian shows up. You know, the lady who just pieced out after dropping some children off in the ruins of a civilization. She tells them to cast another 5-way spell using the power of Amethyst Grandma's necklace, which successfully banishes Snarf back to wherever he came from, though they're warned that they may have only scared him away for now. The girls' teacher, Mr. Trollheimer, walks in and tells them that he's the one who called Obsidian because they are old friends. Episode 4, Onyx's Gym. The girlies are practicing a gymnastics routine for a talent show, and they can't quite get it down because Topaz keeps landing in the wrong direction. While they're struggling through it, Onyx dashes off without telling anyone what's really going on. The rest of the gang wonder why she's ran off, throwing out suggestions like maybe she has a secret boyfriend or a secret new friend group. And as we know, they are best friends for life, so this is the worst possible thing that could happen. Good news though, when Onyx arrives home, it's a smaller single-family home than the ones her friends have. We stan a working-class queen. And we find out that she neither has a secret boyfriend or a secret friend group, but actually she started her gem is slowly losing its glow. Back at the gym, the remaining girls decide to split up and go find out what Onyx's whole deal is. Amethyst and Topaz go to Onyx's house. Sapphire and Ruby go to the mall. Capitalism wins again. At Onyx's house, we find out that Amethyst and Topaz have also noticed that their gems are losing their glow, and they assume it happens to every troll and nobody talks about it, despite the fact that they have never heard of this being a problem for anyone ever. Sex education fails again. On TV, they see a commercial with an elderly woman that looks and sounds suspiciously like an annoying little beast we have met before that claims she can fix a gem that's losing its glow. All you need to do is come down to the shop. They call the other girls and head down. At the shop, they notice the old woman is weirdly hairy and has a surprisingly deep voice. But they go along with it until she insists on taking their gems, which the girls won't hand over. This back and forth continues until we're revealed that the old woman is actually Snarf, who chases the girls into a back room and through a door into a deserted wasteland. In the wasteland, they meet a little boy named Simon who begs them to not hurt him and joins them on their not-so-treacherous journey to an exit that Simon points out almost immediately. They pop out the other side into the middle of the mall, where Simon has turned green, and not because of food poisoning or envy. It turns out that he is the master Snarf was trying to get them to release in the last episode, and he's out to destroy them. He turns the mannequins to life and catches the girls with a holding spell. Only, his magic is weak from a 3,000-year imprisonment, and Snarf is really hungry. So the girls defeat him by throwing a hot dog on a stick at him and casting a Power of 5 spell. Because, and I cannot stress this enough, the power of friendship is limitless. Episode 5, Topaz Possessed. Topaz is struggling with pretty much everything. She can't get their dance routine for the talent show down, she failed a pop quiz, and just generally she's lacking in the self-confidence department. This causes her to quit the talent show and walk home alone, where she runs into Snarf, who tells her that he's left Simon for good and wants to be friends with the girls now. Because she's easily influenced, Topaz agrees to spend time with him under a tree, where some sort of goo drops on and encases her and allows Simon to possess her body so he can run free in Trollzopolis. He instantly gets caught up in wanting to win and rejoins the talent show for Topaz, and is also insanely self-confident, kinda mean, and poorly dressed. The worst things a woman could be. The girls notice that she's different, but don't do anything about it right away, because sometimes your friends are weird, I guess. It's only really weighing on Amethyst because she sees a reflection of Simon in Topaz's compact mirror. This causes Amethyst so much stress, in fact, that her hair goes flat. Hair. Her grandma sees this and asks about what's going on. After Amethyst spills the beans, her grandma tells her that it is likely just a phase, but when Amethyst leaves, she decides to make a few phone calls. We see Topaz hanging out in her mind prison, and she decides that she's too weak to do anything about it. Because, again, she has really poor self-confidence. At the talent show, weird guy Flint plays a song called Angst for the Memories, which I initially thought was funny because Fall Out Boy reference, but emos explain. In the dressing room, the rest of the girls realize that Topaz has been taken over by Simon, and they go to find Obsidian, who is already there. She lore dumps and lets them know that Simon's dark magic led to the ruin of the old troll world. She abandoned them in 3 episodes ago. She tells them about 5 ancient trolls who originally captured Simon, and there are still 3 around. Her, Mr. Trollheimer, and Amethyst Grandma, who apparently does not have a name. They are instructed to do a spell and they incorporate it into their routine, but it doesn't work. That is until they realize they work best as a team. And Topaz says it from the Brain Palace. And it works because she belches Simon right out of her body. Then absolutely nails the talent show. And they also win. Episode 6, The Big Test. The girls have a big test, and the only one who wants to study is Sapphire. We know this because she decides to stay at home and study while the rest of the gang go to the mall, where they're briefly captured by Simon. Though his magic is still weak, and it wears off long enough for them to get into Obsidian's shop and for her to cast a spell to barricade the door. Obsidian is confused because she thought they had banished him the last time. Simon is an idiot and doesn't notice the big brick wall in place of a door and goes away for the time being, but Obsidian tells them that they need to learn how to make their own spells if they want to banish him for good. They go to Sapphire for help, but she thinks that they're lying to her because she's actually studying and they just want to hang out. But eventually they get her to agree to come along to the secret woods and pick up ingredients as long as they use her flashcards and turn it into a study session. As it turns out, doing your homework works because they find all the ingredients and bring them to school so they can make the potion after their big test tomorrow. It's test day and Mr. Trollheimer has to leave because he spots Simon and Snarf outside the window. The girls cast a double spell so the new exam proctor doesn't notice they're gone and run to the chemistry lab to work on their spell while Mr. Trollheimer faces off with Simon and Snarf. And once again, Sapphire's studying works because they're able to make the spell perfectly. Only when Simon busts in, it doesn't work because they forgot to add the stalactite. But don't worry, he accidentally bumps it in and the spell works, banishing Simon to wherever. The girls take the test after class and Mr. Trollheimer gives Sapphire an A and the rest of the girls a C. Not because they did bad, but because they didn't study as hard as Sapphire, even though they literally did study. Episode 7, Troll Fast, Troll Furious. While riding their scooters back from school, the girls take a shortcut where they're promptly hit by some reckless drivers who are street racing. That is, everybody but Sapphire and Onyx, who's riding on the back of Sapphire's scooter. They simply join in on the race, only losing because they run out of gas. While the rest of the girls pick themselves up, Sapphire's flirting with Micah, the cool senior who nearly committed vehicular manslaughter. The next day at school, Micah gives her a fancy car magazine, and his actual same-age girlfriend, Shale, gets really jealous about all of this. Sapphire and Micah start to hang out on the down low, and they disguise themselves as old people to get lunch. Meanwhile, the remaining BFFLs spy on this apparent date and are also being spied on by his girlfriend, who follows the besties to Sapphire and Micah. Shale challenges Sapphire to a spell-off and totally flubs it. Not that Sapphire cares, because she's got a cute new boyfriend, and also she tells her friends to leave her alone, because everyone knows you don't need friends when you've got a boyfriend. Of course, the BFFLs can't help themselves, and Onyx stalks Shale and finds out that she only pretended to break up with Micah, so Sapphire will pimp his ride, and he can finally win the big race. At school later, Micah asks Sapphire to skip second period and set up the racetrack at the park for him, which she agrees to do because that's what manipulative weirdos want her to do. The jock, Rock, inadvertently hears a conversation where Micah and Shale talk about how they're going to get Sapphire in trouble while they have a real race at the mall. He then accidentally tells it to the BFFLs, and the girls cover for Sapphire's absence and hurry to the park. Sapphire initially doesn't believe them that Micah would lie, but reluctantly agrees to go with them to the mall, where in fact Micah is with his alleged ex and about to race. Sapphire sabotages his car, he loses the race, and once again, the girls realize that they're better when they're all friends. Episode 8, The Great Race. Micah's back, and he's furious. We start with the girls getting into a scooter accident on their way to school and showing up late for their history class, where there's a test they didn't know about apparently. To save Onyx, they cast a spell where she knows things, including that Micah wore training pants until he was 7. In her spell stupor, Onyx challenges Micah to a scooter race. There's only one problem. Onyx is a terrible driver, like comically bad. The girls decide to whip her into shape and are mostly successful, but then everyone tries to talk her out of competing in the race when she sees an interview with a famous scoot racer where he talks about all the injuries he's received while doing it. Onyx decides to go through with it because she's good at driving now, and does well until Micah crashes into her and she realizes that he's driving unsafely, and also his scoot is broken and unsafe to drive. Onyx tries to warn him, but he thinks she's lying so she can win. Onyx continues the race and ends up saving Micah, though technically he wins and is totally unaware of the fact that he could have seriously been hurt. Onyx gets invited to join the school's scoot racing club, but turns it down because she only wants to scoot in formation with her friends now. Episode 9, Into the Woods. Micah a third time. I don't know any other Fast and Furious jokes I can make here. I'm sorry. The day after the last race, a cop comes into the school and brings Micah in for illegal scoot racing. He also tries to take someone who wasn't involved, and Topaz steps in to defend him, but ends up making the whole group of BFFLs have to turn themselves in for illegal scoot racing and watching illegal scoot racing, which is apparently a crime of equal value in Trollzopolis. They get sentenced to community service, but are spared from having to wear orange and also pick up trash like Micah because of their honesty. An old man who runs the nursing home lets them help out there as community service, and they really flub it. Onyx and Sapphire accidentally create a laundry monster because they try and use magic to do the laundry. And the rest of the girls cause a plethora of magical ailments by using magic to hand out food rather than a list. Eventually, the old troll takes pity on them and teaches them how to do their jobs, and they actually do so well they get out of community service a week early. They want to figure out how to repay him, and Micah tells them that he overheard the old dude talking about a childhood toy he lost in the haunted woods. The girls go to find it, and Micah stalks them because he wants to steal it and get the glory, so he too can get out of community service a week early. The girls use all of their spells to navigate through the woods until they get to a sleeping ogre, who they wake up and ask where the toy is. She tells them she will tell them where the toy is, as long as they tell her the truth. Is she ugly? Amethyst says yes, they get the toy, but Micah steals it, and also gets caught by the ogre who asks him the same thing. And of course, he lies, because men be lying. Once again, Onyx helps him out, and he admits that she's the better scoot racer, and he's been a bad person. The girls give the old guy his toy, and it turns out it's effectively the magic version of those wind-up toys that waddle. Episode 10. The dating game. Topaz has a crush on a guy that they turned bald in the first episode, and he doesn't seem to notice her. She asks her friends for advice, to mixed results.
Just want to be the kind of girl Jasper likes. You guys have any idea what I can do?
Don't be silly, Topaz. Just be
Scientific. Get the statistics on every girl you see Jasper talking to. Tabulate the common denominators, crunch the numbers, then reshape yourself to fit his ideal profile. Okay, I understood crunch.
Topaz, I'm telling you, just
do what I do. Watch him from a distance. If he tries to talk to you, run away. And never look him in the eye.
And that works?
No wonder I never get a date.
Next!
I keep trying to tell you, just be yourself. Tell Jasper you like him and see what he says.
And only Amethyst seems to recommend that she be herself. Ruby takes the concept of Topaz needing to change herself so far that she even turns Topaz into one of the models walking the catwalk in the mall, which we find out Jasper finds incredibly freaky. Topaz witnesses Jasper invite Onyx to his party, meaning he's invited just about everyone but Topaz, and she becomes upset about it. While steaming, she finds his necklace, and she takes it to the ancient Amber Cave so she can do a spell to turn him into somebody who would have a crush on her. At school the next day, he is certainly turned into somebody. A freaking nerd, that's who. and he gets both Topaz and Onyx dress-coded because everyone knows that girls' legs are distracting to boys. But rest assured, the new nerdy Jasper also has a huge crush on Topaz and isn't throwing a party anymore. So, 2 birds, 1 stone. And a side note, a friend I was watching this with pointed out that the principal makes like a wet squelching noise every time he walks. So, that's something, I guess. Topaz realizes that she made a mistake casting that spell, and even worse, it's going to be permanent if they don't go back to the Amber Caves before sunset. They sneak out of detention, which is accomplished by Amethyst turning Onyx, Topaz, and Jasper into rats. The gang hurries to the Amber Caves that are heavily guarded, but thanks to the rats, they make it in. They grab Jasper's necklace, and Topaz reveals that she tried to change herself so he would like her, and when that didn't work, she decided to change Jasper. Jasper reveals that he likes her and gives her an invitation to the party. A rare episode where the moral is be yourself and not that you're better with your friends. Episode 11, Mirror Mirror. In this episode, Sapphire gets new shoes for the party, and everyone makes fun of her for getting grandma shoes. To make it worse, Sapphire's also absolutely atrocious at dancing and tries to cast a spell to make herself better at it. But instead, she only makes her feet glow. The mean girls at school, who I guess bully them, though this is only the second documented case of them ever interacting, see her take off her shoes and start calling her Twinkle Toes. And oh boy is it going to stick, because Ruby is also a hater to her core. Sapphire goes to return the grandma shoes after school and runs into a boy named Alabaster who brags that he could also fly down to a party for rich people or whatever, but he might consider sticking around if he knew somebody would be there to dance with him at Jasper's party. Sapphire is giving off big vibes like she likes him, though, and I've been there, girl, I think she might just like the concept of a guy liking her, and tells him that she's sure somebody would dance with him. Also, side note, the person who voices Double D is also Alabaster's voice actor, and it's very distracting.
I haven't decided yet. I've been invited down for a weekend at Topaz.
Wow.
She returns her shoes, then goes to an antique store where she spots a big statement necklace with a mirror. And sweetie, you are not going to beat the grandma fashion sense allegations by wearing that. A face in the necklace who sounds strikingly like our old enemy Simon talks to her and tells her that she's smart, a natural leader, and, the most important thing of all, attractive. Sapphire buys the necklace and becomes enamored with staring into the mirror, and takes its advice to start being mean to her friends by one-upping them, flirting with their crushes at the mall, and in the piece de resistance, the mirror gives her a spell, and she casts it and immediately gets dragged into an orc cave. Simon then tells her that he's going to feed her to the orcs because they need to get their strength up, and also that she's not special or pretty, the 2 worst things you could tell a 14-year-old girl. But because they are better together, the rest of the BFFLs show up and join her in the orc cave where they're generally useless, until Sapphire, who is the smart one, though her actions in this episode may lead us to believe otherwise, realizes that the orcs hate light, so all she has to do is take off her shoes. She saves the day, and the girls are friends because all Sapphire really needed to do was be herself. Hey, 2 in a row! Episode 12, Ruby's Rules of Partying. Ruby has 3 rules for partying. Ass, cash, or grass. I mean, never initiate contact. You're judged by the popularity of the guys you choose to talk to. And be interesting. Also, Simon is back, and he really snarfed to cause hate and discontent between the girls at the party, and it's pretty successful because he comes in looking like a little poodle, and immediately Ruby and one of the popular girls start fighting over him, and they do a spell off where Ruby loses, and also her hair gets turned ugly, and as we've learned, the worst thing a girl can be is ugly. Snarf comes back in, only this time he's a cute guy who Ruby tries to put the moves on. All while he's writing kick me signs and spiking the punch, also just generally killing the vibe. And Ruby, determined to stick to her rules of partying, forces her friends to stop hanging out with the people they like, causing yet another fight. Only this time it causes the girls to decide they need to disband permanently. After making all their hair ugly and yet another spell off, they start chanting a spell to break their bond permanently, because one bad party is definitely worth ending more than a decade of friendship, I guess. And they accidentally release Simon, but stop short of ending their power of 5. Simon thinks he's won because he's released, only they banish him again and head back into the party to enjoy it, but without rules, which, it turns out, came from a book Simon had left in Ruby's front yard. Also, they're better as friends, and friendship power, or whatever. Okay, so this is mostly editing Morgan popping in because I was researching, and I found out that there was lost media associated with Trollz, and I figured it'd be fun to take a little break from the main plot to talk about it. For some of you, you may be familiar with Trollz because of the movie releases, which were just 3-episode compilations of some of the main arcs released straight to DVD with some additional elements to better connect the episodes. The first 2 movies, Best Friends for Life and The Magic of the Five, were released as scheduled in 2005, and a bonus feature on the DVD previews the next 2 installments, Hair Over Heels and You Glow Girls, which were planned to release in spring 2006. However, spring 2006 came and went, and there was no release or any stated reason given by Deke or Warner Media, the distributors. It's suspected that this had something to do with the DVD's poor sales and the legal battle between Deke and the Dam Company. But these releases were put on the back burner until Encircle acquired the distribution rights in 2007 and released Hair Over Heels, and planned the release of You Glow Girls and the previously unannounced A Hair Affair in 2008, which would be pushed back and then outright cancelled in 2009. As it stands, the first 3 films are found, with A Hair Affair being partially lost with only the Dutch dub being available. Allegedly, the remaining episodes were also compiled into movies, and all 9 features were available on Netflix for viewing during an unspecified time frame. Anyways, Lost Media is cool. Check out the Lost Media Wiki, which is where I got my info from if you want a better write-up. I'll link it below. Episode 13, Forever Amber. The girls are setting up for a Ren fair because they have varied interests, though I do not know why 5 14-year-olds are the only people who are a part of this committee. They are fighting the whole time, by the way, and after their blow up in the last episode, I wonder if they actually like each other at all. Though this fight is about how Ruby borrows things then never gives them back, like Topaz's shoes. They more or less get over it because now they're picking out period-accurate clothing from Amethyst's grandma's closet, and Ruby decides that she's also going to borrow a ring, even though Amethyst's grandma never said they could borrow jewelry. This makes Amethyst nervous, and she lets it happen, and they head out to a mall, and Ruby is the only one in the outfit they picked out today because apparently the festival doesn't start till tomorrow, and she's just extra. Ruby sees her crush, Rock, is talking to other girls and casts a spell to make him only like her, except the ring amplifies it and everyone in the mall becomes obsessed with her and starts to chase her until Amethyst realizes that the ring could also reverse the spell, and does that. The girls leave the mall and a tornado hits, and uh-oh, Ruby loses the ring she's not supposed to have. And they're tardy to class apparently because they went to the mall before school on a school day. But luckily, the teacher who finds them is Mr. Trollheimer, who realizes how serious it is and has the girls go talk to Amethyst's grandma, who plays it cool, but the situation is actually kind of serious. The next day at the festival, the girls try and have fun while the ancients go to the ancient world to look for Simon. But lo and behold, Simon is at the festival, and he's making all the furniture come alive to fight them. The girls very quickly pop into the ancient world and get the ancients, who subdue Simon, while Amethyst makes him give up the ring, which works, but also vanishes Simon and leaves the ring magicless. Episode 14, Not So Good Old Days. The girls wake up for the second day of the festival, and they watch their crushes on the news harassing a reporter and chasing after other women. They use their spell phone to make the boys have bad hair and send a message about chasing other girls. And also Sapphire's really excited about fulcrums and levers because she is the smart one. They leave the house, and the whole town has been transported to ye olden days. But they assume that everyone remodeled their houses overnight to be festive or whatever. When they get to the festival ground, the boys are singing a banger about how girls suck and they're dumb, and not gonna lie, they might be right about these girls, because they decorated the event and are acting like this is how they left it.
Oh, girls are stupid, they be not smart. Who's all? Who's all? They dress in weird clothes and giggle a lot. Who's all? Who's all? They be not too strong and their brains be small, but boys be handsome, brave, and tall. And we all feel great when girls are out of sight.
The boys call the cops on them for saying that boys are stupid because it's illegal in Simonopolis, and they get arrested and stockaded. But don't worry, they get out of it because they cast a love spell and steal the keys from an ogre guard. The girls give the town boys a runaround and find out that the ancients are being kept in the castle. This is actually longer and more drawn out, but nothing really happens. Just when they're about to get caught, Sapphire uses a fulcrum and a lever to launch the medieval roller coaster in the middle of town into the castle, but overshoots and they land in Ye Old Dump. Meanwhile, Simon menacingly looks over the ancients that he has kept in a jar. Uh-oh. Episode 15, Simply Simon. In the final episode of this arc, the girls have to break into the castle and release the ancients, and honestly, I really ran out of steam right around this one. A lot of stinkers right in a row, so I zoned out a bit. But basically, they have to pretend to be male theater kids to sneak back into town, and Onyx briefly blacks out, imagining how awesome it would be to be a dude. And I don't know if maybe we should tell her. Their magic is super weak, though, and they realize that Simon has some sort of machine that's harnessing all the power because Sapphire, again, famously loves machines and gadgets, and they manage to take control of it, defeat Simon with the power of 5, and release the ancients. Also, the boys who were horribly sexist to them this whole time don't remember any of the weekend, and the girls are pretty excited about it because it means they can still like them. Episode 16, The Tree and the Dragon. This is one of the best episodes in a while. So while practicing beadless magic, the girls all find out that they each have an ancient that corresponds with them. Mr. Trollheimer is like Sapphire because he's smart and has blue hair. Obsidian is like Ruby because she's also a leader, and Amethyst's grandma is like Amethyst because she is her grandma. Only Onyx and Topaz don't have ancients, and boy does it give Onyx an inferiority complex. She becomes obsessed with trying to find her ancient, like, to the point that she begins to dream of somebody in trouble in the haunted woods. She forces Topaz to come with her in the middle of the night to follow the dream path, and Topaz immediately gets them lost because she eats all the jelly beans Onyx has been dropping on the ground so they can find their way back. Topaz calls the rest of the girls because she's bored and tired, and they come looking for them, with Obsidian in tow. Meanwhile, Onyx and Topaz find a suspiciously troll-shaped tree, and they use a beadless transformation spell to turn her back into a troll, though she can't speak and seems very distressed. Obsidian is tracking them like a bloodhound and manages to find them while they're getting attacked by a dragon. She shoos it away and takes all the girls home. She's happy that they're safe and healthy and to see her old pal Zirconia, but still scolds Onyx for not being willing to listen to her elders and let things be revealed with time. I think this is one of the better ones based on the sheer fact, for like the past 4 episodes, the girls have not seemed to like each other even a little bit and spent the majority of their time bickering. The emotional drama in this one is much more focused on Onyx struggling with self-worth and accepting things that take time, and not 5 people who hate each other realizing that they're better when they're being friendly. Episode 17, Homecoming. It's homecoming, and Topaz thinks old people are gross, especially Zirconia, who everyone decides for sure is Topaz's ancient. Though Topaz denies it every step of the way and can't even stand to be in the same room with someone who's so hideous. Everyone, including the cognizant ancients, try to use exposure therapy to get Topaz to be willing to take Zirconia's hand, as she can only speak when Topaz is in the room. Meanwhile, homecoming is happening, and the girls are going to go to the big game, where they can taunt the popular cheerleader who is mean to them. Also, apparently there's a separate town where all, like, the ogres live, and they are both massive and better at football than the trolls, so it's a comically bad game. Which is okay, because it ends up getting attacked by Simon and the dragon from the last episode, and the only person who can save it is Topaz, and only if she gets over her fear of old people. She does, and also finds out that the only reason Zirconia won't change her old clothes is because they offered her a color that looks bad on her. Phew, she isn't ugly by choice after all. They save the day and the football game, and Topaz isn't prejudiced anymore. As long as you aren't ugly. Episode 18, A Dragon's Tale. Because these girls cannot read a room, they decide to host a tea party to celebrate their ancients, and they do not seem to understand why Onyx doesn't want to be around for it. So, while the girls are partying it up, Onyx is braving the haunted woods because she's convinced if she goes past where they found Zirconia, she'll find her ancient. Zirconia gets a vision of this, and the rest of the girls and the ancients rush over to the woods, where they're apparently relying on Zirconia for information, even though her memory has been dog water since she stopped being a tree. And there's a scene where everyone is excited because Zirconia is about to tell them who Onyx's ancient is, but then can't remember. And everyone is disappointed, even though the three ancients with working brains definitely know who it is, like they did the Power of 5 together before the girls. So they're pretty much just emotionally hurting a child to teach her a lesson on patience, I guess. Onyx runs into Simon, and he turns her into a tree, but it turns out that Onyx's ancient is actually the dragon Simon has been using to do his bidding. And the dragon comes back and frees Onyx from her tree prison. As they fly to safety, Simon turns the dragon back into a troll, named Spinel, and they crash into the search party. Using the power of 10, they banish Simon again, and Zirconia starts henpecking Spinel, because apparently he is her husband. Episode 19, Field Trip. Gender Essentialism, the episode. The many children of Trollzopolis High go on a field trip to a museum of troll history, and we find out that the male trolls can't do magic because after the war, the ancients decided that only girls needed a limited form of magic. Except for, the two immortal, powerful male ancients, of course. And we see an instruction video about how baby girl trolls get their magic. Hint, it's from amber being dropped into their belly buttons in the amber caves. Mr. Trollheimer tells the boys that this isn't unfair because girls can do magic and boys are good at science. So women are also a minority in STEM in this world, don't worry. Also, Ruby and her kind of boyfriend, Rock, spend the whole time fighting, and this causes Rock and Jasper to be reckless, and also, once again, we have to hear about how rich Alabaster is, when he calls his rich, science-based family to save the boys from a mechanical T-Rex at the museum. On the bus ride home, a combination of Ruby's magic and Rock's idiocy knock Mr. Trollheimer out, and Rock and Ruby bring the boys and girls together to save them from ghost wolves while they wait for the literally only adult / bus driver / teacher on this trip to wake up and take them home. Episode 20, The Day the Magic Died. This arc really is for the boys. The boys sneak into the Amber Caves to get themselves some magic because although they learned the last episode that it's okay to be different, no teenage boy has ever learned a lesson. The girls notice that the boys aren't at the mall and realize that they must have went to the Amber Caves to steal the magic. That's like their third guess, by the way, so these boys must mess up sacred places a lot in their free time. The girls find them at the stump where all the baby girls get their magic, and Simon is there also for some reason I don't remember. But the girls fight Simon to save the boys, and because the girls' magic backfires about 98% of the time, they trap the whole group in the caves, probably forever. The boys are upset that they couldn't also fight Simon, and the girls don't care because boys drool, and start casting spells willy-nilly, even though their magic is mega amplified while in the Amber Caves. Ruby and Rock dodge a spell that Ruby casts and accidentally pull the magic stump from the ground, but it causes the cave doors to open up and everyone leaves. Though something is definitely amiss when they exit, and all the lights of Trollzopolis are dead, and also, no one's gems are glowing. Episode 21, Bringing Back the Magic. The first half of this episode is spent recapping the events of the last episode to Obsidian, who is dying because magic is the only thing that keeps her old ass alive. She tells the kids that they need to find an exact match for the stump in the haunted woods and replace it before sundown so the ancients won't die. That would be an impossible task, if not for the power of science and so much generational wealth. Alabaster uses his parents' science, to help them narrow down the field, and they all work together to fight an ogre and bring a tree to the cave just in time. And the moral of the story, I think, is something about how it takes all kinds of people to make the world go round, or something like that. Also, maybe gender essentialism? Can't forget that. Episode 22, New Girl in Town. A new girl shows up at school and she is super charismatic and funny and everyone likes her, except for Ruby, who thinks she's throwing a wrench in the BFFLs throwing their annual BFFL party. Also, it does turn out that this new girl is 100% Simon, and her mom is 100% Snarf. But again, Ruby is the only one who notices this, and the other girls kind of start ostracizing her for it because Ruby is also kind of a jerk. At the end, they then realize that they're better together after banishing Simon and Snarf again, for the 22nd time. Episode 23, When Good Girls Go Bad. Ruby is being a total jerk in traffic, and also the rest of the BFFLs are kind of mean too, and their hair is a little, bad. They remember that they ate gross cookies Snarf made, but are too concerned with getting invited to the pep club or whoever holds events on campus. I don't know. I was homeschooled. Part of their new evil personality, they spend a lot of time winking at and flirting with boys to cause them bodily harm, and also turning them into monkeys during lunch because, monkeys are the funniest animal. They use mind control beads to get adults to do their homework and steal things, while Simon charts how evil the girls are becoming. Ruby, the only one perturbed by this, goes to Obsidian to see if she's a bad person. Obsidian says no, and helps Ruby know that she can always change if she's setting a bad example, because although Ruby knew Simon was behind everything in the last episode, she is also not smart enough to figure out that it could happen twice in a row. Also, the rest of the BFFLs turn Rock into a breakdancing dog.
Go, Rock! It's your birthday! Go, Rock!
The girls use more mind control to get the popular girls to hand over Pep Club, and Ruby ends up narking to Obsidian that the other girls stole the mind control beads, and the two of them rush over to the school circus to stop them, but it's too late because Simon has already taken over. Episode 24, Boys and Girls Together. Simon has taken over Trollzopolis with mind control, and the BFFLs are cops now. Except Ruby, who we don't see until after we find out Simon has built a Grecian statue of himself and imprisoned Obsidian and Amethyst Grandma. Meanwhile, the boys meet up with some guy online who they think might be Mr. Trollheimer because his screen name is Prof Daddy. So, they definitely do not teach internet safety in Trollzopolis. Lucky for them, it is Mr. Trollheimer, and he has Ruby with him. He convinces the boys to go into the woods and find a talisman, because they need someone with absolutely no magical ability to handle it. The cops, BFFLs, catch them at an abandoned movie theater, but Mr. Trollheimer sacrifices himself so the kids can go and find the talisman. They find it pretty easily, but the BFFLs find them, and an epic fight ensues, ending because Amethyst falls down a well and becomes unbrainwashed because Topaz and Sapphire leave her to die. But her boyfriend helps her out of the well. Using the power of friendship, they all clear their minds and band together to stop Simon. With the power of 5, they cast a spell to turn Simon into an donkey, and they rescue the ancients before realizing the ultimate lesson. They're stronger with the power of friendship. But wait, there's more. Simon manages to capture the girls, and it's up to the boys to save them from destroying the talisman, which they do, sending Simon back to wherever he's from. Episode 25, Where the Trolls Are. The girls are finally on spring break, maybe? Some sort of 2-week break from school, though the weather in Trollzopolis isn't giving anything away. They all pursue their various interests, like getting their hair done and studying, but as kids usually do, they get bored really fast. They visit Obsidian, who suggests that they go visit Zirconia and Spinel, who have moved to Trollhedi, as they need somewhere quiet to regain their magic. She warns them not to tell anyone who they're visiting because they don't want Simon to know where the remaining ancients are while they're in recovery. Topaz blabs instantly because they run into the cheerleaders while shopping for new outfits. And she blabs mostly out of ignorance this time. The fact that ancients are in Trollhedi spreads like wildfire, because apparently it's a big deal to high school girls that the BFFLs have ancients. Who wouldn't want a magical old person of their very own? Simon also finds out immediately and is sitting a couple rows behind the girls on the plane and talking out loud about his evil plans, while the girls absently gush about their vacation plans, like doing educational stuff and seeing cute boys. Topaz and the girls go to the beach, and when she isn't getting enough attention, she starts talking about her ancients again, which is, for some reason, a big deal to these boys with no magic and also who are in another country. Meanwhile, Simon finds the ancients and attacks them. Topaz warns the rest of the BFFLs, and they ignore her because she keeps lying or whatever. But Onyx gets a psychic blast, and the girls rush to help the Ancients. And despite the fact the whole thing was Topaz's fault, everyone praises her and tells her that she did so good today. So, confidence booster, I guess. Episode 26, Surf Monster A Go-Go. This episode starts with a long montage to a kind of catchy song about being on vacation.
I know a place where you can go, girls. Trollz is the place to go, girls. Warm sand for your toes to go, girl. Get on a plane and go.
The girls are truly living it up on the beach, except for Sapphire, who is avoiding the ocean and generally seems adverse to water. While the rest of the BFFLs are learning how to surf, Sapphire hangs out on the beach until a sea monster attacks and she has to try to help them. Only, she won't go into the water without a floaty, and also she loses her spell beads, so her friends are totally SOL until Onyx casts a sneezing spell on the sea monster. When they walk back to the house, Sapphire gets defensive when Amethyst asks if she was scared, but it's okay because they both end up scared when monsters attack them. Spinel suspects their fight with Simon stirred up some of the island's ancient magic, and that's why things have been turning into monsters and attacking people. He tells them about a stone tablet with a spell that could put the magic to rest, and he suggests that the girls ought to stick together, but it's too late because Sapphire is already gone. When she's attacked because she's alone, an ogre saves her, and they realize that they have a lot in common. The ogre, Sandstone, can't read, and Sapphire can't swim. So basically they're the same. They agree to teach each other the skill they don't have, and also Sapphire tells her friends that she has new friends when Ruby calls her ungrateful. It turns out that the ogre knows where the stone tablet is, and it just so happens to be where the remaining BFFLs and the island boys are hanging out. Sapphire uses her new swimming ability to retrieve the stone tablet from the pool, and new reader Sandstone reads the spell to banish all the monsters back to being normal stuff on the island. And also everyone is friends again, and Sandstone goes home. Episode 27, Krakatoa needs some Java. It's the last day in Trollz, and the girls are fighting. It's been raining for days, and they've apparently spent the whole time sharing 2 twin mattresses between the 5 of them, and they're just really over each other. Spinel is making them learn a traditional hula dance for their last day, and Onyx is naturally good at it. But Ruby gets incredibly jealous because she's the star. And of course, these girls hate each other, so they all start fighting immediately. And because they're fighting, the volcano on the island threatens to erupt. Spinel pleads for them to get along, which they don't do, so the volcano starts shooting fireballs. At the peak of the volcano, they start fighting again, but when Amethyst nearly falls in, they come together and turn Ruby's hair long so Amethyst can grab on and climb out. They cast some spells and fix the volcano with just enough time to return for their hula recital. And in the final ever episode of Trollz, the BFFLs do a traditional dance with bad hair because, and I cannot stress this enough, it's a hair thing.
It's a hair thing, it's a big thing. Music, fashion, magic, make us happy. Welcome to the Trollz world.
To answer the question of whether or not Trollz is good, it isn't. Before I get into specifics, I have to let you know that this was not a particularly fun watching experience. I enjoyed the first couple episodes out of sheer nostalgia, but the longer the show goes on, the more it drags. If you're thinking about revisiting it, watch a few episodes for sure, but just know you're not finding a hidden gem. What I liked about Trollz is that it's very visually fun. Sure, you can get sick of the rotating CGI establishing shots, but you can't deny that the weird shapes of the mall and the school and the houses add a nice touch and make you feel like you're in a world that's actually inhabited by trolls, and not just a slapdash stock background. The characters are also fun to look at. They definitely suffer from same face syndrome, but their huge hair gives them all a degree of visual difference that I enjoy, and I do think that they did a good job of making the characters feel pretty distinct from each other in the writing. Ruby and Onyx aren't written the same as Topaz or Amethyst. Although the writing isn't always good, the girls each follow their own sets of rules and stay pretty consistent throughout. Trollz does fall into a lot of early aughts stereotypes though, because it's a show aimed at girls we're blasted with constant consumerism. Even the theme song talks about how they're all about shopping, and you know, that's the Trollz world, baby. I think for a girl power show, by far the biggest sin it commits is stereotyping the girls and making them incredibly boy crazy. From the first episode, we know that at least half of their deal is the boys that they like. One of the first times we see all the girls together, they're all batting their eyes at a group of boys in the mall, and Ruby is willing to end a friendship in the same episode over her friend just talking to a boy that she likes. And this kind of keeps happening. There's an episode instigated by the girls thinking Amethyst doesn't have a cool enough boy to crush on. There's 2 separate arcs where it's essentially boys versus girls, and in the end, the girls might prevail, but they still go right back to being silly over boys in the next arc. And I get that they're teenage girls, and in real life that is something that occasionally happens, but it's just not a great message to give to a 5-year-old watching this. And we can't erase the fact that they choose to make the boys naturally gifted in science and technology, a real-life field. Meanwhile, the girls are relegated to having natural abilities and magic. A fun conceptual thing, but not exactly something that girls can look to as aspirational. They vaguely address this with Sapphire's aptitude for machines and fixing scooters, but I don't think that really makes up for the fact it's explicitly stated that boys get science and girls get a limited form of magic. I wouldn't say that the show is exactly a step back for feminism. It's honestly not that different from a lot of pop culture at the time, but it's really just lacking in creating a well-rounded show for empowering young girls. Like, it's got the bones, but it's just without substance. When I really think back on what I liked about Trollz and why I was willing to tune into it on a little antenna TV, it was the marketing. I don't remember how much time I spent on the website, but by far the most iconic thing I can remember is this website. Look at it. Trollzopolis Mall right there. I can't tell you a thing about the gameplay. I can't tell you what my account may have been, but this homepage was all I needed. It was like stepping right into the show. As far as I can tell, Trollz.com is lost media, but there's some gameplay and site navigation on YouTube, and this homepage is archived on the Wayback Machine. So, go crazy, kids. The other thing that makes Trollz so iconic in my mind is the dolls. I only had Amethyst, but this horrible, horrible hair texture is permanently ingrained in my mind. Like, I'm no doll architect, but there had to be a better way to represent the hair of the characters on a show so focused on hair. I remember this doll so vividly that when I decided I wanted to make this video, I popped over to eBay to see if I might be able to grab one for cheap, and I'm starting to think that not a lot of people were buying into the Trollz hype. I was genuinely surprised to find out that Trollz marketing seemed to be a flop because of how vividly I remember it. According to the Wikipedia article on Trollz, Deke and the Dam Company both took each other to court over misrepresenting how successful a contemporary Trollz property could be. And yeah, you know what? After watching Trollz, I would also like to get in on a lawsuit because it sucked. I wasn't expecting Trollz to be a great work of art, but I was hoping for a Monster of the Week girl power show that was maybe lacking substance, but was at least fun. And generally, Trollz wasn't all that fun to watch. Because they chose to structure the show into 3-episode arcs, if you didn't like the topic, you were going to be bored to tears while you waited for it to finish. I'm an adult, so I finished it, but as a kid I can't imagine why another kid who was bored with an episode would bother tuning into this when you could tune into a better cartoon on a different channel. And although I think the characters are interesting, and I praise them for being able to give each of the girls a unique personality, however stereotypical, a huge part of this show is that these girls are powerful because they are friends. But a lot of the show's conflict comes from the fact they absolutely hate each other. They are constantly willing to turn on each other and kick people out of the friend group for acting different, and it sucks. Most of the lessons they learn are about friendship, but they never stick, so you just end up frustrated. Truly, the biggest thing I think Trollz is worth remembering for is its style, iconic songs, and character design. You could skip the show completely, but if you see a few still images and put on a Valley Girls song, you'll get about the same experience. And maybe they put it best in the theme song. It's a hair thing. I've been working on this video since November, when I originally wrote and recorded the script. So it's been a long one. It followed me through the retirement and near death of one computer, and complete burnout from Trollz as a franchise. And also a reevaluation of if I think video editing is even fun. So if you enjoyed it, please leave a like. If you really like Trollz and or want me to suffer, leave a comment. There's some non-TV show Trollz media I will cover for attention. Thanks for watching. XOXO Morgan.